I think the sheer variety, basically. Just her, she's incredibly expressive in the way she thinks about various things, and the way the humor that she brings to it as well, and also the solemnity as well at times. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's been a singularly enjoyable and interesting evening. I didn't intend to stay for quite so long, but I must say that Shanta's got a very inviting manner of attracting one into listening and staying. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope that she has due success, and that her CD in particular is very successful and part of something new. Thank you.
Well, I've known Shanta. I was her teacher in Cossack in Odisha. Yes. I taught her English language and literature. I was also her headmistress. So I've known Shanta as a child, and for me, her poetry, to me, it's a peep into her soul. I know her very well, and much of her poems, her poetry, it's a reflection of her inner life, what's going on in her own soul. And I, as her friend and teacher, know quite a bit about Shanta and her inner soul. And it's been a great privilege for me to come here this evening. I'm very proud of her, and I wish her well. Thank you.
Shanta is not just an old friend, but a very gifted poet who has brought the threads of her varied life into the most beautiful poetry. What else can I say?
I think it's a beautiful event, and the poetry is very good. It was all very well presented, and Shanta is such a good reader of her own, poetry. It's completely. It feels different, not just sounds. It feels different when it's the author who is reading it. So I've enjoyed it utterly and thoroughly, and the fact that she was reading from some of her earlier books. It gives us the whole perspective of whatever she was doing before, and it's a great opportunity to catch up on her earlier work as well.
They came from the heart, and the personal reflections were really, really very touching and very beautiful.
I've known Shanta for a very, very long time, and I have quite a few of her poems, the books with me, especially the one, Not This, Not That. I like that. And she has a range which is absolutely unbelievable, because from the very profound she goes to the very light-hearted, and it's something which is very rare, and that was as we saw again this evening when she recited some of her poems. It was an excellent evening.
I thought it was very good. I've known Shanta for quite some time, and I've published her work quite a bit, but I really enjoyed tonight's poetry reading. I thought she read a lovely variety of poetry, and she finished up on, after going through some of her very serious and very sort of transcendental poems, she finished up on a very humorous note, which left everybody very happy for the reception. So I thought she did really well.
It was a very well orchestrated reading, and what I liked about it was the fact that she brought out the two sides of her work. Basically, not this, not that. There's a spiritual dimension, and there's the material world in which we live. And I think the tension that exists between the two came across. And also the fact that you never can go back to where you came from. But it's not just for another country, it's just true of one's childhood in one's own land. I think she's a very stimulating way of presenting her poetry. And I think it was very enjoyable.
Enjoyed it greatly. I've heard Shanta before, and she's helped in the past with Jenny and I going to Orissa. So we met her family, some of them. But I particularly liked the Black Swans. I thought that was very good. I enjoyed it very much.
Well, I've known Shanta since the early 80s when we were students together in Oxford, and it was a real pleasure to hear those poems. I particularly enjoyed the funny ones. Great sense of humour there. But I do think that the one about prayer in Italy should go into an interfaith newsletter as well. It's very interesting for people of any faith to read that.
I loved hearing Shanta read her poems. Her voice rang out so clearly and musically. And some of them I have read before, but I heard them as if for the first time, and I enjoyed it very much.
So I know Shanta as an expert in charity investment and endowed charities, so it's fascinating to see she really has a double intellectual life.
I really enjoyed the evening. It was a very varied, very broad range of poems. I really enjoyed it. It was wonderful to hear the poet in her own voice.
We followed Shanta's career with admiration, and I think her poetry just gets better and better.
Special occasion to be here, and when I was sitting and listening to the poems, I realized very much that there is such another part of life, of poetry and culture, which I don't pay so much attention to, and it made me really aware of the richness of language and of life in general. And it's very special to know Shanta and to be here. So it's a very special occasion.
Her poetry, I think, is very different because it has a wide variety. It on one hand, it's quite philosophical, and sometimes there's a sort of very light-minded poetry as well. And I've attended her previous readings. It's always a great location, and her readings are always good.
I thought it was completely enchanting. I've known Shanta for 25 years. I've been to, I think, all of her book launches, poetry book launches, and I'm always completely entranced by the way she writes and her voice, the way she recites. It's lovely.
I really enjoyed the evening. I haven't known Shanta very long, but I thought her early poems were really thoughtful, and then as she kept reading I was very drawn into her voice and her humour, and I think she did a wonderful presentation of her own life and her own charm coming out through the reading in the evening.